Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you from Germany. Today is Sunday, the 8th of April 2018. I'm so glad you're joining me today. If you're watching for the very first time, welcome. And if you're coming back, thank you ever so much for coming back. I really appreciate that. So today I am once again filming and the lighting is not perfect. I have closed the blinds and it seems to be working out okay, so we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, fingers crossed. So what I didn't mention so far is this is a knitting podcast. So I will talk today about first off some knit-alongs and group things, then finished objects, followed by works in progress, lots of acquisitions and prizes and yarny things, and then possibly some live chatter at the end of the episode. So let's just jump right in. For administrative stuff, we have a group on Ravelry called the Happy Knitting Podcast Group, and that is where you can find all knit-alongs, giveaways, threads to ask questions, to do a swap, all kinds of things can be found there. And you can also find me on Ravelry as Wupfi, which is Wuepfi. So if you want to get in touch, that's an easy way to do that. I can also be found on Instagram as the Happy Knitting Podcast, and of course you can find me here on YouTube. So if you do subscribe, you will get some kind of notification when I upload a new video, which is usually every week. So there we go, that's out of the way. We currently have a knit-along running, which is the sock blankathon. And the idea is to knit something out of a sock blank. So you don't have to knit socks, you can knit whatever you want as long as you knit at least 50 grams of a sock blank, which is essentially just a knitted piece of fabric that has been dyed, and then you knit by unraveling it, and that just gives you some really interesting sort of dyeing techniques, and the yarn knits are really fun. So that knit-along is running until May 15th, so you have plenty of time to join in. Whips are okay. Knit as many projects as you'd like, and of course double dipping is always allowed. So for prizes, I'll announce some of them later, but there will be prizes for sure. We also have the One Ball with Love Cal, which is a informal knit-along that actually ran last year, and I just kind of kept it going. And the idea is to knit with balls of commercial yarn. So if you want to just knit along, get some knitting inspiration, this is just for socks, and you just knit them out of any commercial yarn such as Cascade or Opal or Regia or Knit Picks Felici. All those things are welcome. This one is an informal knit-along, so there are no prizes or anything. It's just a fun place to share your knitting. So that's it for the knit-alongs that we are currently running. And I will move on to finished objects. So since I was just talking about the sock blankathon, look you guys. I finished my sock blankathon socks. So these were knit out of a sock blank from Amy of Stranded Dye Works, who has sadly since stopped dyeing sock blanks. So I'm very sorry for that. But this was one of her sock blanks in the Piñata colorway. And as you can see, these socks turned out crazy, colorful and bright, and I totally love them. I put them on a sock blocker. I usually don't block my socks, but with sock blank socks, they come off quite crinkly, so I have since blocked them. But they're actually a little bit longer. I just don't want to stretch them off the sock blocker. But they are done. I am super happy with these, and let me just take one off to show you. So I've just soaked and blocked these once, and you can see that the fabric is already pretty even. But with my sock blanks, just by wearing them, the fabric will continue to even out a little bit more just over time. But I think these look pretty perfect already. I really love the colors. For these I knit for myself, so I did 64 stitches on a US size 1 or 2.25 millimeter needle, and a garter stitch fish lips kiss heel, which you can do with any short row heel, you just knit the pearl stitches. So these are done. I'm super happy with these, and part of me wants to knit more sock blank socks, but part of me also really wants to keep enjoying the process, and that for me means that knitting with sock blanks is really special, so I don't want to do it all the time. Yeah, I know that's kind of crazy, but anyways, we'll see how that goes. This pair is done, and there's still plenty of time, so even if I decide to knit another pair of sock blank socks in a week or two, I still have plenty of time to finish. And also, I'm not eligible to win any prizes anyways, so this is just for fun. So these are my sock blank socks, and yeah, crazy lighting, but oh well. Whoops. My next finished object I am even more excited about, because you guys, look, it is done. This is my Damiaka Lupa sweater, which is originally it's a cardigan designed by Pinegori. I think that is how you pronounce that, but I am not sure. Anyways, it is also called the flea cardigan, and if you're wondering why, yeah, I kind of didn't do the fleas. So the fleas are tiny spots of color work along the sleeves and the body, and I didn't do that. Also, like I said, it was supposed to be a cardigan, and I knit it into a sweater, which shouldn't be that hard, but I kind of had to play around with the increases and decreases and where to change colors, because originally, if you speak it, of course, like all the color changes were in the front of the sweater. And I moved them to the back of the sweater, and yeah, I also did my own kind of shaping and everything, but it did work out really, really well. I'm not wearing it today because first of all, it is still slightly wet, and secondly, it is really warm. So, but I did take some photos, maybe I'll pop some in, otherwise just check Instagram. But this fits perfectly. I absolutely love it, and I'm very relieved because I kind of did some very adventurous shaping on this one, but it turned out so well. And with blocking, this is Holz Garn, Holz Super Soft, which I talked about many times, but I feel like this softened up way more than my other sweater did. I'm not really sure why. When I first washed this, and this is a tip I read on the internet, I actually soak it in dishwashing liquid, because that just is the best way to get all of the spinning oil out. And this softened up so much. I really like it. And I knit this on a tighter gauge than I did my previous Holz Garn sweater, and it feels much nicer. So I think in the future I will keep doing that. I knit this on 3mm needles, whereas my last one I did on 3.5. And oh my gosh, this sweater is just amazing, and I'm so proud of it. And yeah, it feels completely different to my other Holz Garn sweater. I wish I could somehow show you, but it's a tactile thing that I can't show on the YouTube video. But oh well, it is done. I'm crazy excited. As you can see, I did the hem and the sleeve cuffs, I guess, in the yellow. The only thing I will say is, oh my gosh, you guys, this bled like crazy. I did not think about that at all, which is stupid to begin with. But I just soaked it, and the border was so dark blue, and it did look like it had kind of stained the white up here, but it actually looks fine now. I was really worried I ruined my entire sweater, but it looks okay, and even if it did bleed, I think you wouldn't really notice it. But yeah, I don't know why I didn't think about that. But the color work straightened out a lot, and I think it looks really, really nice. If you do want to see the inside, because I know some people like to see the inside of color work, this is what my floats look like. They're probably not perfect, but it works really well. So yeah, that is my Damiaka Lupa. I will surely wear it another time, and like I said, you will see some photos of it somewhere. And that is it. So very, very excited to have this off the needles. It did take me a little bit longer because, as I mentioned last week, I didn't bring the yarn with me to finish the sleeve when I had time, so I finished it this week. So yeah, that is it for finished objects, and I'm just moving around a tiny bit because the sun is coming in kind of weird. There we go. So let us talk about some works in progress. Today I won't show you all of my whips because one of them is the Impressionist Mystery Knit Along by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. And I have since finished Clue 1 and have started Clue 2, but it honestly doesn't look that different yet. So there's just no point. But I have a couple of other whips that I'm planning to show you, as well as one that I want to cast on soon. So in my handy dandy sock project bag, I have a new sock project that you haven't seen before. And the idea behind this is a yarn dyer that I met in Munich at a recent crafty show. And I hadn't heard of her before, but she's located in Esslingen near Stuttgart, I think. And the reason why I wanted to cast on this yarn is because I'm going to another yarn fair next week, and I know that she'll be there. And she had a lot of really fun sock colorways, and I bought one last time to try. So I just really wanted to try the yarn and see how I like it in case I want to get some more. So I think all of her colorways are one-offs, and she does have a website, but it's not like a huge online shop. But anyways, I got this colorway, a one-off, like I said, on her 80/20 merino and nylon base. So she had a merino base and just a virgin wool base. And yeah, it looks funny because I had triple caking it, and then I made 2 balls because I was going to knit 2 at a time, but then I ended up knitting 1 at a time. Anyways, what do you want to see is surely the sock. This is what it looks like. So I cast this on. I did just a ribbing and then left it because I had another work trip last week, which involves lots of trains, and so I knit pretty much all of this on the train there and back. And yeah, I really like this yarn. This is just a plain vanilla sock. So I did a 2x2 rib for 20 rows, as I always do. I knit a fairly long leg and another garter stitch fish lips kiss heel. And now I think I'm about maybe half a centimeter off before I start the toe. So yeah, quite happy with it. I think the way that it's striping and kind of micro striping is quite fun. And I'm glad to have tried this before I possibly get some more next week. Not much else to say, unfortunately, but yeah, really like it. I like a good sort of German sock yarn, as you guys know. I'm just throwing stuff everywhere, as usual. Next up, I have another sock project that I cast on last night. Because I was in a bit of a funky mood and I decided, well, let's just cast on some socks. Oh gosh, you guys, I hope I put a spoiler warning because I'm using a Hedgehog Club colorway. It was the Marriage Club, so I think everyone should have gotten it, but if not, I hope you didn't see, and if you did, I'm very sorry. I'll try to put a spoiler warning ahead. Anyways, before I show it again, the colorway came in the Marriage Club, and I always want to say it's called Watermelon, but it's not. I think it's called Strawberry Pop or something. Oh my gosh, I have no idea. I know the ball band is lying in the other room. Anyways, I'm going to show the colorway now, so if you don't want to see, please look away. So, there it is. Doesn't it look like a watermelon? I think it totally does. You guys know my huge love of Hedgehog Fiber Sock, which is their 90/10 merino nylon base, which I know lots of people don't like to knit for socks, but I love knitting it for socks, and these socks, they last me forever. I also find them, just the way the yarn feels, I just find them really comfortable and long-lasting, and they're not as hot and sticky as some other yarns get, so I really like it. So I cast on a vanilla sock, and I am really enjoying it so far. This is just the very, very beginning. I just cast this on last night. But I really like it. I especially like it because it is very different to the usual Hedgehog Fiber skeins, which are more speckled. This one is definitely variegated. And I just like that it's so different. I also like that the colors are very bright, and this just had to be socks, and it's kind of springy. Like I said, it completely reminds me of a watermelon. And yeah, I'm very happy with these. So these will be for me. I again cast on 64 stitches on a US size 1 or 2.25 millimeter needle. And this is what the yarn looks caked up. So that's another sock project of mine. And now moving on to my sweater whip. This is the Fern and Feather sweater by Jennifer Stein. I talked about this last week. This is Austrian yarn that I found in a local yarn shop in Germany, in Kempten. I don't know where else to get it. I haven't found it online, so I'm very sorry to disappoint on that front. But it is a very sheepy, sort of rustic wool, and I really like it for color work. So this is a swatch. It's been washed and it feels quite soft, and I really like the feel of it, the gauge. I really like it. And I have, of course, knit up the sweater, or I'm at least underway. So like I said, the Fern and Feather sweater is a pattern by Jennifer Stein. She's super popular with the colorwork sweaters at the moment. She has so many beautiful patterns. And this smells so sheepy just holding it up. It's crazy. So last week I was still working on the yoke, but as you can see now I have finished the yoke. I have done the shorter sheep shaping on the back. I have separated for the sleeves, and now I'm just knitting round and round for the body. And I tried this on today for the first time, and it fits perfectly, so I'm really, really, really happy with this. This is, of course, kind of a heavy project to work on now that it's getting warmer, but oh my gosh, I can just leave it like that, and it looks like I'm wearing a sweater. Anyways, yeah, this just really excites me. I just love this pattern, and it's really beautiful yarn. Like I said, very rustic. It's going to be a super warm sweater. Not really what I need right now, but oh well. What I did want to mention is this is supposed to have just like a rolled neck, just like the Tracer sweater by Jennifer that I knit very recently. But because you go into the color work very, very quickly, you can see my floats are just coming through, and I kind of wanted to try it on and see what happens if you wear it, but you can definitely see like it curls up, and then there are my floats. So what I think I'm going to do, I might even try that today, is I think I'm going to pick up those rolled hem stitches and just knit some kind of neckline or like a little bit of ribbing, because I like the open neck, but I don't like the float sticking out. So that's probably what's going to happen, but we'll see about that. The needles that I'm using for this are 3.5 millimeter needles, which is a US size 4. You're supposed to use 4 millimeter needles, but my gauge tends to be kind of loose with sweaters, and also you're supposed to use a worsted weight yarn, and this is a sport weight. Although I would say it's kind of close to DK. It is categorized as sport on Ravelry, but it feels like a DK at least. And if you are interested, this is the tag. So yeah, that is it for my Fern and Sweather. Yeah, Fern and Feather sweater. Maybe that should be the episode title, Fern and Sweather. Anyways. And of course, this is living in my huge coffee bag that a friend of mine so dearly sent to me. I mentioned that I was wondering where to get sort of like bigger bags for color work projects, and she made one for me, which is incredible. So yeah. So like I said, that is it in terms of my whips, except for the mystery knit along that I'm not showing you today. But I thought I'd bring out my new sweater project that I'm planning to cast on. I really want to cast on today. And that is, of course, the Blåfjell sweater by Ellie of Skandia. I don't have a picture to show you, I'm sorry, but I'm sure you've seen it. It's been all over the podcasts and Ravelry and that. It's a beautiful colorwork sweater that has a main color and then 2 contrast colors, and I have picked my yarn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using this sort of very light heathered gray for the main color, and then these 2 shades for my contrast colors. As you might have realized, I'm really trying, or I've been accumulating quite a bit of sweater quantities of yarn, or like color work and yarns in my stash. So I have the two main yarns I have in terms for that are Super Soft by Holst, which I've talked about before, and this yarn, which is Drops Flora. I used this for another sweater, the Breathing Space, in the past, and I loved it. I love how it wears. I still wear that all the time. This is a alpaca and wool blend, I think. What is it? Yes, 65% wool, 35% alpaca, fingering weight, and so I have a whole bunch of this in my stash, and I love having fingering weight or DK weight yarns exactly for that reason, so you can just stash dive whenever you want to cast on projects, and them by having, like, how can I say this? Oh my gosh, words. What usually happens is with normal sweaters, I'll have a little bit left over, and then you have bunches of different yarns left over, and I don't really love mixing yarns in terms of sweaters. So by always using similar yarns, you can then just interchange them, and if I have some left over of this, I can just use it for another sweater. So anyways, long story short, I want to be casting on my Blåfjell sweater very, very, very soon, and I'm so excited for it. I bought the pattern like as soon as it came out, and I can't wait. So that is waiting to be cast on. I'm considering whether I need to swatch, because I could just use my breathing space sweater that I knit, check the needle gauge, which I'm 99% sure I used a 3.5 millimeter for that as well, and I know I want to be using 3.5, I think. Anyways, that's the idea. But that was knit like 2 years ago, so I know I should swatch. We'll see how it goes. Anyways, that's already in the bag, and that's probably the most dangerous thing I could have done, because now it is just waiting to be cast on. But yeah, that is it for works in progress and future works in progress. So next, let me get some stuff out of the way, because I have a bunch of yarn to show you guys. First of all, there's my whole table is kind of full of yarn, and there's only one thing that I bought. All the rest is like podcast gifts and people being way too generous. So I'll show what I bought first. Big surprise, it's another sock blank. My sock blankathon has just made me buy all the sock blanks, which I'm sure wasn't the idea. But yeah, this is a German indie dyer that I've been following for years. I think ever since she opened and started on Etsy or something, and now moved to her own page. This is Schwedenrot und Sternenglanz. And I just don't know why I never ordered from her. But she did have a coupon code over Easter, I believe. And that had led me to check out her shop once again. And then I found this sock blank on sale. And you guys, I just had to go for it, especially because this is so tacky. This is a Frozen themed sock blank. It is named Elsa, and it is glitter. So I mean, how could I say no? Let me open it up. So look at that, you guys. It is very bright, but I think it is super fun. It's also really beautiful, and I think it's going to make a super fun sparkly pair of socks. I'm not sure if I want to be knitting with sparkle in summer. Somehow sparkle is always kind of like Christmassy for me, so it's probably going to go in my stash for a while, but I really, really, really like this, and yeah, no regrets. I'll make it all pretty again later. Since we are also already on the topic of sock blanks, let me just keep going with that. So, let me rearrange. There we go. When I started the sock blankathon, lovely Sandra of Sandra's Craftfulness and the corresponding Craftfulness yarn shop and podcast and so on, she got in touch with me and offered to send me a little something, which was already crazy generous. And then I came back on Thursday night. I think I came back after midnight from a work trip. Was going to go straight into bed, but there was this huge, you guys, I kid you not, huge box. And I was like, oh, that's way too big. What the heck? And it turned out that essentially Sandra has just sent me all of her yarn. Or I should say us. And so I'll just show that it was crazy, crazy generous. Thank you so much, Sandra, again. First of all, she sent a really lovely card. I'm not going to show you the inside, but it was really lovely. And way too excitingly, you guys, she sent me a whole bag full of these waffles. And oh my gosh, you guys, they're so delicious. I think this is the last one I have left. My sister was here to visit over the weekend, and we just ate so many of these over the weekend, and these are delicious. Oh my gosh. I just love this stuff. I love stroop waffles, and I think they're not the same, but they kind of remind me of them, and they're so good. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed that. But of course, you guys don't want to see the cookies, you want to see the yarn, don't you? So first of all, she sent us 3 sock blanks, and they came all perfectly packaged. And yes, I am the one who tore up the package because I wanted to look at them, and she kind of prepared them in a way that I could. So first of all, let me show you her card. That was awkward. So this is Sandra of Craftfulness. This is where you can find her, and We Professional Today. And I think her logo is really pretty as well. So she sent us 3 sock blanks. And with all of these, she just said, like, take whatever you want, give away whatever you want. But of course, these will be prizes for the sock blankathon. So she sent us this one. Oh my gosh, you guys, look at these colors. Sorry for the sun coming in, but aren't they stunning? Next up, she sent us this sort of more coral one with, again, I think this is absolutely beautiful. And lastly, she sent us this one, which again, I really like this. This is sort of autumnal, also friendly for male knitters. And yeah, so look at it, you guys, 3 sock blanks, and that is just the beginning. I'm kind of tempted to keep this one. I really like this one, but I have a very similar one already knit up, so I'm not quite sure. But 2 of these will definitely be prizes for the sock blankathon because it is just too perfect to not give them as prizes. But that, of course, wasn't enough because Sandra is apparently crazy. So she also sent us 3 skeins of her yarn in skein form, I should say. So she sent 2 skeins in her BFL base. So this is 75% blue-faced Leicester and 25% nylon. And the colorways that she sent, this one is called Cold Jumping Jack. And I think I'm going to keep this one because I love BFL sock yarns, and this just really appeals to me. And she also sent this one, which is called Just Another Manic Monday. Sorry, I had to sing that. Apparently, this is so beautiful. These are such perfect manly colors. I think she kind of sent this with Kai in mind. But Kai wasn't sure if he liked it. So I think he is getting way too spoiled. And she also, talking about spoiling, she also sent a skein of her Spoil base, which she said is her favorite base. It is a 80% merino, 20% nylon blend. And this colorway is called Folksy Red. And again, this is just stunning. Beautiful colors in here. So yeah, all this yarn. Isn't that crazy? So like I said, most of this will be used for prizes. Thank you so much again, Sandra. And I can only recommend her yarn. I haven't tried it before, but it looks amazing. What I didn't say was the colorways of the sock blanks because I don't think they had specific names. And the sock blanks are a 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon base, in case you're interested. So, oh my gosh, you guys. Thank you so much, Sandra, again. And yeah, I think there are a few things that are more amazing than a huge box of Sandra's yarn waiting for you when you get home. A really, really exciting thing that showed up a day later is some yarn from Marta of Mad Fuzzy Yarns. And she got in touch with me a couple of weeks back when I mentioned on the podcast that I really like sort of rustic yarns and unusual yarn blends, like things that deviate from your standard merino nylon blend. And what she's done is she uses really, really special bases. So let me show you her logo first. So this is Mad Fuzzy Yarn. It's a really beautiful, beautiful logo, by the way. And this is Frisian wool. And you guys, I'll just keep it here to show you. This yarn is unlike any other yarn that I've ever had. So it's this one is in her. She has 2 different sock bases. She also has the K-weight yarn, but I said I was more interested in trying her sock base. So this is her pure fuzzy base, which is 100% East Frisian wool, It's 400 yards to 100 grams, and you can see maybe if I hold it up really close, even though the lighting is really bad. But this is a 2-ply, and it's a very loose sort of 2-ply. I don't want to say it's uneven, but it's a very different texture to most of the yarn that I show on this podcast. And it feels really interesting. Again, I wish I could show you, but it feels kind of crunchy. I guess if I had to compare it to something, it would probably be BFL, but maybe even like Jacob. Like, it has a bit of a halo. It's a little crunchy, but it's not super soft, but it's also not scratchy. And I love this colorway. It's called Latin Beauty, and oh my gosh, I didn't tell her what colors I'd like, but this one is so very much my style. Let's just open up. Maybe that'll help us with showing you more of the yarn, but it's always hard to show these things, I think. It's just a really interesting yarn. Can you see the halo? It's got a slight halo, and she said this would be perfect for socks, and I definitely agree, and I really can't wait to try this stuff. She also sent me a sock set. So this is a set of 70 and 30 grams to knit a pair of socks with the main color, and then do heels, toes, and cuffs with a different color. And this is the Apta Camp sock set. I assume Apta is a place somewhere. I'm not quite sure, sorry. And the lighting is crazy. And this is in her Pretty Tough base, which is 80% Frisian wool, 20% Starfire nylon. Also 400 yards per 100 grams. And again, this is really interesting because I've seen lots of Stellina yarn before, and I've heard of Starfire, which is another sort of glitter yarn, but I've never seen it in a yarn. And unlike the Stellina yarn, this glitter you can't really tell apart from the wool. It's more like the entire thing has a very, very slight sheen to it. So I'll try to show you this as well. But this is so interesting. Like, this is not your typical glittery yarn. But again, the texture of the ply and everything, I think, is quite similar. And I just find that stuff so interesting, you guys. Maybe you find this, maybe I'm boring you, but I'm finding this really, really interesting. And again, I can't wait to knit this up. I like that it's not in your face sparkly, it's just barely there sparkly. And yeah, not sure if you can tell the difference between these two. I'm not going to undo this skein as well. But yeah, this was really, really interesting. And again, Marta was way too generous, and she said she would like to offer a prize to a winner that she'll send straight to the winner. She has a shop on Etsy, I should say. And then she will send that prize straight out to you. So what I was thinking is, because I blew past 3,000 subscribers and I completely missed that, this might be a good chance to just do that, because I think the sock blanks are perfect for the sock blankathon. So let's just have a giveaway let's just have a just because giveaway, I guess. And you will receive, like I said, a skein of Mad Fuzzy yarns. And of course, you can also pick one of my patterns of your choice, and I think that'll be a really good prize. So I'm just doing this off the cuff. I didn't decide that before starting the podcast. But I think what I'll do is I will open a thread on Ravelry for this giveaway, and the prompt will be, because I'm really interested, like I said, in like different rustic yarns, different yarn blends. Tell me about your favorite or most interesting yarn blend that you've used. I know it's getting, like BFL is quite popular. Lots of people are also starting to get into like Wensleydale and Jacob. There's so many different yarns out there, and I would be really, really interested, especially because now I'm more and more into like rustic yarns and color work, which kind of goes hand in hand. So just tell me your favorite or most interesting yarn that you've tried, and if you haven't been so lucky and you've maybe just started knitting, tell me which yarn you would like. And I think that's a perfect prompt to receive some really special yarn as well. So I think I will keep that running for 2 weeks to give you guys a little bit more time, because of course I want as many people as possible to enter for this. And then I will draw a winner in not the next episode, but the episode after. So that should be the 8th plus 14. That should be the 22nd, shouldn't it? Anyways, so again, thank you, Marta. And she also sent me some really interesting tea. This is called Highland Organics. And it's organic wild Maine blueberry tea. And it sounds really interesting. So again, can't wait. And yeah, very, very exciting. So you guys, that is it for yarny content and the knitting part of this show. So if you're only here for that, then I will see you next week. And if you do want to stick around, I will just keep talking about nothing at all. So in terms of life in general, I've been quite busy, which is apparently what I say all the time. But it's been a good busy, I would say. We had a short week because we had last Monday off, but it feels like a 6-day week rather than a 4-day week. It was really intense, partly because I spent 2 days in our Wiesbaden office once again, which I do quite a lot these days. I always enjoy it, but it means long train journeys and getting home very late. Especially on Thursday, it was really funny actually. In hindsight, it was funny. I didn't find it funny at the time, but I think I left the office and went to the train station at like 7 p.m. Took the train into Frankfurt and then was going to catch my train back to Munich, which means that I usually get home at like 11:30. And somehow the day was jinxed. So I was, first of all, I was taking I really like train stations. And I took a really pretty photo of the Wiesbaden train station and going on about how much I love trains. And then, of course, everything just went wrong from there because I jinxed it. So I arrived in Frankfurt and my train was going to be delayed. And then it just got more and more and more delayed, and it was getting later and later, and I was getting grumpy. And then all kinds of trains and disasters and stuff happened, so like all the trains were delayed. So at some point I realized that there was actually another train that was supposed to have left ages ago but was delayed and just arrived, and that took a much longer route back to Munich, but it did mean that I managed to make it back, which was the main thing. But I was super grumpy on the train and jinxing myself, and I had like so much knitting with me. I actually finished my sock blank socks, almost finished them in the train. I also knit quite a bit on my other socks. And they do have Wi-Fi on the ICE train, so I had all the podcasts, but my wrists were hurting because I had knit too much, or probably knit cramped. And I was so tired and I couldn't use all the knitting time. So anyways, I completely jinxed that. But most importantly, I did make it home, and that's just part of train travel in Germany, which is really funny. I think everyone, like all tourists, are really impressed with our train systems. But us Germans, we tend to complain about the train system nonstop. Me, myself included, for sure. Anyways, that was the longest train story ever recorded on a knitting podcast, for sure. But at least it was somehow slightly knitting related. Besides that, I've just been really busy, but in a good way. I had a busy work day on Friday and went out for a lovely dinner afterwards. And then yesterday, which was Saturday, my sister came to visit, my youngest sister, who is 16, and she stayed overnight, and we just had so much fun together. She loves the same things that I love. She's a huge Gilmore Girls fan. She's a huge Harry Potter fan. And we had actually never watched Gilmore Girls together. So we did that last night, loaded up on all the snacks, including the waffles I showed before, and so much chocolate. And yeah, we ate like the Gilmore Girls. We watched so much Gilmore Girls, and I think we annoyed everyone else because we're essentially everywhere we go, we just have all these references in our head. And yeah, it was really fun. We also did so much walking, and I took her to my favorite coffee shop. This morning we drove down to Lake Starnberg, which is where we go quite often for breakfast on the weekend because it's not that far away from us. And yeah, so it's been a very busy weekend, but also a really fun one. The weather has been incredibly warm and summery almost, so I feel like that always just gives me the extra bit of energy. For example, I actually hand washed some of my colorwork sweaters, which I have never energy for, but just happened. So yeah, in terms of knitting, I'm hoping to get some more knitting done next week. I'm not sure, but I'm hoping to not have to do any traveling next week. And then next weekend, I'm going to a yarn festival, which I keep talking about every week now. It is the Hohenloher Wollfest in Blaufelden, which is pretty much at the end of the world, but kind of close to where I am originally from. So I'm going there with my sister and planning to bring back all the yarn. I know it doesn't look like it, but I've actually been pretty good with buying yarn lately. The yarn that I showed today, for example, I bought quite a while ago. At least that's what I'm telling myself, but I'm probably going to go crazy, especially because I'm going with my sister, my middle sister this time, and she is the worst enabler, you guys. She's so bad. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, and of course I'm excited to tell you guys about it. I think this is the first time that they're having this festival, and it looks really good from what you can tell from their webpage and so on. So yeah, very excited about that. With that, I think I am pretty much done for this podcast. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to enter the giveaway. I'd love for you guys to join in. And I will most likely see you again next week. Have a great weekend. Have a great week. Happy knitting. Bye.